Now, finance and economics lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Patrick Esumi, says a failure by government to address challenges confronting its public expenditure framework will continue to affect the fiscals of the economy. He says these loopholes will always throw government out of its budget going into the 2024 elections. Interacting with Joy Business's James Ishan at the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting, Dr. Esumi stressed on the need for more expenditure cuts.
There are long-term things we can do and there are short-term things we can do. I think over the long term, really, the political business cycle is a result of the governance system that we run. A governance system that gives always an incentive to the ruling government to try and overspend. So that's one part. But the other thing is that we have our fiscal or our public expenditure framework has a lot of loopholes that allow political actors to spend outside of the budget. So I think that is the immediate thing we can do is try and then strengthen our expenditure control measures and to ensure that people are not spending outside of the budget. That is usually the main source of the overspending that comes. People making expenditures outside of the ones that are approved by the budget.
Talking about expenditure and looking at the budget, what we've seen so far, what was being read in the budget, do you think we are making headway somewhere?
Well, that's for next year. I mean, for this year, I've been pleasantly surprised that we've kept expenditure under wraps, especially when the revenue has underperformed. We've seen that because the revenue is underperforming, the government has managed to rein in expenditure. Although my preference would have been the expenditure cuts would have come from the wages and salaries and compensation. As it is, most of the cuts have been coming from capital expenditure, which has implications for our long-term growth. But at least we've seen that the government is trying to keep the fiscal deficit under wraps, so hopefully that will continue.
Now, Doc, let me bring you to that of the cedi. We've had the Association of Forex Bureaus saying going to the festive season, there's a likelihood the cedi will depreciate. The cedi is now hovering around 12 cedis thereabouts. What is your expectation going into the festive season, basically?
Well, I think we begin to see wobbles, as you are saying, and so we go to the festive season, we go to the reporting season, and then so the pressure is likely to come to bear on the currency, except if we're able to finalize the cocoa syndicated loan, which will bring us some relief, will help us with the reserves, and also if the second tranche of the IMF comes on board, then it might help. But we know that those ones are short-term fixes. In the long term, everybody knows what we have to do. We have to broaden our export base, and we have to do more import substitution. And we have to reduce our dependence on foreign financing. When foreigners are bringing the money, we are happy and we are singing. When it's time for them to take the money out, we see that the currency is wobbling. So I think over the long term, we have to diversify our export base. We have to do more domestic production and cut our imports, and then reduce our dependence on foreign money.
About this repatriation of profits, how do we ensure that these companies or multinational companies sort of keep some of these profits, and what are some of the ways forward?
It starts with the laws. I mean, if you look at our investment laws, we are too generous. But that is in itself is because we have an orientation that without foreign money, the economy cannot grow. That is a problem. We have to change our mindset and begin to say that no, we have to look inward. And looking inward, of course, means that we have to ensure that we are collecting the taxes. That doesn't necessarily mean imposing more indirect taxes, but ensuring that we modernize the economy, and then we use the digitization efforts to expand the tax base, make sure that more of the informal sector is paying the taxes. If we do that, and we change our orientation to say, okay, we have to look within Ghana and start implementing some of the ideas in Ghana beyond aid, then that will ensure that, if you are always in need of foreign financing, then you always find a way to give them the incentive to bring them in. And one of the incentives we give is that, hey, when you make profit, we allow you to freely repatriate them. So that is where we have to tackle. We have to start by focusing more on domestic resource mobilization.